Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead for them and their companies. I'm your host, Amar Elm, and in each episode, we uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today, we are absolutely thrilled to be joined by Andrew Bloch, founder of Andrew Bloch Associates. Renowned PR strategist, M&A advisor, and trusted boardroom ally to some of the UK's most influential businesses and personalities. Andrew.
Hi.
The Founders
Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show, and lovely to meet you.
Lovely to meet you as well. I'm excited to dive in. I always like to take things back. So start me off to before you started your company. What were you doing beforehand, and then what was really your motivation to starting Andrew Bloch Associates?
Before starting this current venture, I actually founded or co-founded a PR agency called Frank. And Frank was founded in September 2000, went on to become and still is one of the most successful creative PR agencies in the industry, opened up offices in London, Manchester, Glasgow, Sydney, New York, working for incredible brands, some of the world's most famous brands. Built it to a really good size, went through various iterations of selling the company, taking back some of the company, going through management buyout. But 20 years in, I'd reached an age where I think I just had an entrepreneurial itch to scratch, really. Any founder will know that you never get bored running a company. It's impossible. Yeah. But there was something missing. I just can't explain what it was. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew what I didn't want to do. I think I'd built up a good awareness of what I was good at and what I wasn't good at. So I wanted obviously to focus on the stuff I like and that I'm strong in. So I set up Andrew Bloch Associates, and the associates bit of the name really reflects the fact that one of the things I didn't want to do was employ loads of staff. I just wanted to work on my own terms. But I knew that in order to scale, I needed help. So the associates was about recognizing that one of my strengths was my little black book and my connections built up over 30 odd years in the industry. So it was figuring out a way to work with the very best people, agencies, suppliers out there, but in a slightly different way to how an agency would work. That was the foundation. Effectively, I'm a consultant to the marketing services industry, and what I do falls into a few different buckets. So there's mergers and acquisitions, the buying and selling of marketing services agencies, which I do in association with PCB partners. There's running pitch processes for some of the world's biggest organizations, people like Starbucks, Goldman Sachs. I do that in conjunction with AR, which is a management consultancy that specializes in marketing. There's sitting as a board advisor to various different marketing services agencies, helping them with growth. And then some of those I've invested in so that I got some skin in the game. I've set up a business called Stacked, which is our social content. I've set up a business called Big Dog Talent, which is a booking agent for influencers and creators and celebrities that brands can use. And then I advise other agencies along the way. And then I also still advise Lord Sugar, who's been a client of mine for 25 odd years. I look after all of his businesses, and also anyone that goes on the Apprentice and wins the show, I help set up their businesses. And then last bit of my time is really about giving something back. So it's working with people like the School of Marketing or the School of Communication Arts or the King's Trust to help give back and do something worthwhile, as well as charities like Grief Encounter, Variety, those sorts of people. So I keep myself really busy, but enjoying it.
Yeah, it sounds like. Thank you so much for breaking that down. I'm super curious now at this stage of your career. Excuse me. So the ideal client is marketing services companies, and you've got a variety of different ways that you can work with them. Is your main focus now more on the advisory side, or is it more on the purchasing of the companies and investing in the companies, the mergers and acquisitions? Or am I off there?
No, you're not off. It basically depends. Some companies are looking to grow. They're looking to how can they differentiate themselves in the market? How can they attract new clients? How can they become more profitable? I can work with them at that stage. Some clients are looking for help on campaigns or people to partner up with, or sometimes it's brands that are looking for agencies, so I can help them there. And then ultimately it's where an agency wants to exit and they're ready to exit, or they want to acquire similar like-minded complementary businesses, I can help there. So it's, I think, really what I mean, I'm now 5 years into this era of my career. When I started, it's not that I was less fussy, but I was less focused. So one business I worked with in the early days was Dalston's, which is a really cool soft drink soda company. And I love the founder, love the business, love the product. But I realized that my expertise was limited to the marketing side of things. And there was a whole other area of advisory where I didn't have expertise: distribution, sourcing, chain supply management, all of these guys. So that was quite a valuable lesson to me. Whilst I enjoyed it and whilst I'd like to think I added value in my period working with them, actually the thing that I know and the thing that I understand inside out is how to run an agency, because that's what I'd done for 25 years before going into this. So I've now become laser focused on doing that. And as tempting as it is, I had a phone call Friday, from one of the biggest publishers in the world, social publishers, like a massive Gen Z publisher, millions and millions of followers, tens of millions of followers on social media, asking me to join their board. And it's a brand that I love and admire, but when I think about it, I'm just not sure I'm the best qualified person to do that. And depending on what they want me to do, if they only want me to focus on the bits I know I can help with, that's fine. But if they want me to do more than that, I'd rather focus my attention on where I'm really confident. And I think I've learned the ability to say no. I think it's really hard when you run an agency to say no, because we're always chasing the dollars, and we're also naturally enthusiastic people. We believe we can help, but ultimately now my life is pleasurable, my business is pleasurable, because if I say yes, and I don't mean this to sound arrogant, but if I say yes, I know I can do a brilliant job. I know I can add value. I know I'll give them a return on investment. And it's not always that clear cut, because sometimes my gut instinct is yes. And then when I think it through, I'm like, actually, no, there's some gaps here, there's some gaps there. But the PR agency I founded was called Frank. And that was about being open, honest, no bullshit. And that reflected my values, the values of my co-founder. And I've taken those principles into my next business because they still apply. I haven't got Frank above my door anymore. That's their story to tell. That's their business. But it's my values are still alive. I think keeping that integrity and not letting people down and being open and honest is super important.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's huge. And I think that's a great learning lesson for a lot of people listening, because there's a lot of agency owners that hear this. And there's the full service marketing agency that's everything for everyone. And then as a result, you're nothing to no one. It's
Absolutely, yeah.
focusing on your core competencies and really dialing in on who that ICP is very important. I've talked to agency owners before, and there's this belief that you can't sell an agency. So I'm curious your perspective on this, given the fact that you've done M&A advisory work, you've invested in these companies as well. What do you think a lot of agency owners get wrong that makes their business unsellable, if that makes sense?
Sure. If you put it into the mindset of a buyer, they're always looking at sort of the risk versus the reward of making an acquisition. So what makes something less risky, so to speak, is a good management team, a stable history of growing income, retained clients, not too much reliance on one individual client, a good management team, an area that of marketing that is complementary and not under threat and complementary to the business that's acquiring. Those are the kind of things they're looking at. So sometimes, like my business, for example, is unsellable because it's all based on me. If I was to walk out the front door and get run over by a bus, there is no business. But I know that. I'm not looking to sell it. When you're building something to sell or having the opportunity to sell, it can't be reliant on that one person. It makes it too risky. There has to be a good team. There has to be a visibility of future income. There has to be strong management accounts. but most things are sellable. It's just at what price. And all the
Mm.
things I'm saying, you could probably still sell an agency, but you wouldn't get the valuation that is perhaps desirable or optimum. To get the optimum valuation, you need to minimize the risk from the perspective of a buyer and maximize the opportunity for making that reward, which all sounds really simple, but it's much harder to get right in practice.
Yeah.
But very few agencies do sell because they get their timing wrong, they wait too long, and then they're not achieving growth, or they try and do it too soon and they're not ready. And it's a very distracting process to sell an agency. You've got to get your timing right. The other area I think now is, without a doubt, there is an oversupply of agencies out there, or certainly an under differentiation of agencies. You have to stand for something. And you said earlier, there's so many agencies that say yes to doing everything. It's not necessarily the answer. What can often be a lot stronger is to have a complete niche in terms of what you're doing, really hone in on a specific area, a specific discipline, a specific geography, whatever it might be. You've got much more chance of being acquired by doing that than trying to be a sort of master of everything and in reality not being a master of anything.
100%. That's so interesting. So let's say I'm an agency and I'm looking to grow, potentially exit, and I come to you and I'm like, okay, what does it actually look like for me to work with you, Andrew? What are the typical client engagements? Walk me through that.
So on the sell side of what I do, essentially what we're doing, and I work with a team of people. So PCB Partners is a boutique advisory, and it's very entrepreneurial in terms of the way it's driven, and that a lot of the people are people like me that have been there, done it, seen it, worn the t-shirt, and I can talk to a founder from experience. I've sold a company. I know the pros and cons firsthand, but I'm also not qualified as a corporate banker. So I work alongside people that are incredibly well qualified, from KPMG, from Goldman Sachs, from Merrill Lynch, wherever it may be. And as a team, we're a great combo. And what we will do is we will prepare a business for sale. You've got to be ready. You've got to have your numbers in shape. But you've also got to have your story in shape. Storytelling is a big part of a sales process. So we'll prepare a company for sale. We'll also educate the seller on the market and who the potential buyers are. And you rewind 10 years ago, it was relatively straightforward. You had these kind of 5 or 6 holding companies. They bought everything. That's who you went to. Now you have private equity. You have private equity backed holding companies. You have mid-tier companies that sort of aren't necessarily operating in the same way as traditional networks. And for me, I always try and talk to a founder and really try and understand what they want. And you might think what they want is the most amount of money possible. And that's always part of the equation, but it's never the full story, depending on their personal motivations, their stage in their career, their age, their makeup. There's different things that they want. And it's about trying to find the right fit. A good fit is when someone sells a company and they've lost the financial ownership, but they still feel emotionally engaged. And when I was running my company and we sold it was in 2007, 7 years into the company. I didn't leave until 2020, 13 years after that deal. My business partner is still there today. It's gone through lots of iterations and guises, but he's still there 25 years ago. I had a beer with him last week. He is loving life, loving working there as much as he did on day one. And that's the sign of building something of value and doing a deal that you can continue. As it happens, the people that bought us no longer own it. So it's gone through a different sort of stage of ownership. But I'll always try and understand what a seller is looking to achieve and try and advise them on the right fit. And it's like when an agency works with a client, some of it is capabilities, a lot of it is capabilities and past experience, but there's this kind of harder to define element, which is about the cultural fit and how you get on a personal level. And that's where I think, it's where I come into my own. My knowledge of agencies and the landscape is previously been pretty useless. I've just built it up over years and no one cared. There was no use for it. But now it is quite useful because I understand what's underneath the bonnet. And running an agency, I think there's always this tendency to compare your, what I would call the sort of behind the scenes video with other people's show reels. So you're looking everyone else on LinkedIn or on their websites. You're thinking, how come they got their shit together and I'm struggling to retain my staff or retain clients or win new business or whatever it might be? The reality is everyone has that behind the scenes video. We're just not seeing other people. So I have some insight into what it's like to work within an organization, what it looks like when they've acquired a business. And that's where I can help. And then I combine my knowledge with the financial side, because ultimately you only get one chance. Well, some people get more than one chance, but generally you get one chance to exit your business. You want to maximize the return on value, all those years of blood, sweat, and tears. You don't want to feel shortchanged. So it's important to get the financial structure, minimize the risk for the seller as well as the buyer. I love it. I think it's such an exciting area to be in. And the deals, they don't happen every day. You work for months on deals, but there's nothing better than, it's like the ultimate pitch is the way I see it. And in the 5 years I've been doing it, one guy has sold his business for over 100 million euros. Another business I sold for over 50 million pounds. You are creating generational wealth and obviously I do quite nicely out of it as well, because we take a percentage of that amount. But to be able to change people's lives financially and also to elevate their careers, they're going into big private equity companies or massive holding groups, and they're learning, they're becoming part of a bigger organization. That's really rewarding for me as well, because I've been on that journey and I know what it's like to experience that. So it's a very pleasurable bit of my job.
I love that. I love that. Those are some big numbers for sure. I'm curious now that you're 5 years into this business, but obviously you've had a tremendous career. When you think of the future, when you think about ultimately what does success look like for you, let's say a couple years down the line, both personally and professionally? What are you striving towards in a sense?
A great question. I've had the most amazing client in Lord Sugar to have the privilege of working with him day in, day out. He is nearly 80. He has all the money in the world that he could ever dream of, not just for him, but for his generational wealth. He owns the planes, the boats, the holiday homes, yet he still absolutely loves what he does. If I sent an email to 10 clients, I can pretty much guarantee he'll be the first one to come back to me. He doesn't miss a trick. And he also knows how to enjoy life. And I've learned so much from that, because I often used to question, why does he still do it? He doesn't need the money. He's got everything he ever wants. And he does it because he loves it. And as simple as it sounds, almost stupid, for me, my barometer is, and unfortunately, I haven't got his level of wealth and success yet. But I ask myself, or I don't even ask myself, if I get out of bed and I'm looking forward to working, I'm looking forward to what I'm doing, I feel like I'm achieving something, not just financially, but mentally, it's stimulating. And that's enough for me. Like, I don't really question it. I'm not one for 2-year plans, 5-year plans. I think it's quite a hard industry to predict. And you have to be innovative. You have to be entrepreneurial. And I guess what I do is every sort of 6 months, or maybe when I'm doing my tax returns or whatever that moment in time is, I'll look back and think, what am I doing? What bits have I really enjoyed? Are there any bits that I haven't enjoyed? Are there bits where I'm working so hard, but I'm not getting the reward for it? And that's where I'll start to tweak. But because of what I do is so diversified, there's no one element that sort of I'm reliant on. And a guy who I used to work with, a guy called Alex Greer, who's a brilliant PR guy, he always used to talk about fun, fame, and fortune and wanting to tick those boxes. And at the time, I never really thought about it because I was working for an agency. I'd pretty much accept any client that I knew we could do a decent job on. Now I think about it a lot more, and I think it's such a good barometer. You need the fun. You need to enjoy what you're doing. By fame, my takeout on it is not about me being famous, but it's about elevating a client, taking them to the next level, helping them achieve what they want to achieve in business. And whatever that fame means for them, I want to help them get that. And by implication, it means that I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm enjoying. And then the fortune bit is, I think we're too old, too ugly to be doing things for where we don't value ourselves properly. So I want to be able to reward myself for the hours that I put in, for the years of knowledge I've built up. So I think it's a really good kind of tick box. But ultimately, my main barometer is, am I enjoying it? Am I happy? And if not, what are the bits I need to change?
Yeah, I love that. Beautifully said. What is the best way for people to reach out to you to work with you?
I'm really easy to find. My website is andrewbloch.co.uk. You can just put me into Google, ChatGPT, anywhere you want, and you'll find
Nice.
stuff. If you want to see a few holiday pictures, you'll find me on Instagram at Blockstagram. Everything else is Andrew Bloch. So X,
Awesome.
LinkedIn. I'm not a hard person to track down.
Awesome. Andrew, thank you so much. Excuse me.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for your time today.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me.
So that wraps up another inspiring episode of Founders Future. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure to check out Andrew. Go to his website, andrewbloch.co.uk. You can also find him on other various platforms as well, Andrew Bloch. And that's Bloch, by the way. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or an agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with our team and discover how we were able to go from zero to $30 million in less than 3 years. Until then, keep on climbing.